young fan. Signing it, getting the look from the cheer team.
What do you say? Can I thank you?
Then asking his name.
A-R-K-R.
Signing back to Mark, her name is Morgan. And asking about the big game.
You think that I think you see other people signing.
Mom Veronica telling that cheerleader he loves when he learns that others can sign too. And right here tonight,
Good evening, David.
Mom Veronica and Mark signing his name, just like he did for that cheerleader.
M-A-R-K. M-A-R-K. Mark. Seeing Mark light up.
Ability within the NFL and sports in general. Thank you again, and of course, go Colts.
The Colts and go more signing with that young fan line, signing America Strong. Awesome.
ABC's David Neal, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Neal than any other newscast.
Hold on, no, that can't come in.
We're back to the chat.
We'll bring this Board of Finance meeting to order for, what does it say, October 7th, October 15th, 2025. I'm Mike Anderson, the chair. We have Dan Smith, the vice chair, Carl Johnston, Gary Nino, Amy Friend, Lou Gendrella, and Winona Burdine. When Sarah's here. And Sarah Nelson. Let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item up is public comment. Does anyone have anything they want to say first? Brian, come on up to the podium, please.
Hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Yeah, I figured that out.
Brian
so far.
Rathman, Grindstone Hill.
All right, I just wanted to say tonight, as far as what this taxpayer believes, I know, I've been to a lot of meetings and I really love our people that are on the Board of Finance. I just hope you look at, I think this year to me, and I'm hoping it is for you, it's accountability. That's a big word. I hope you're looking at the organizations and the committees, what they've done in the past years with what they've been given. I think you should look at the progress that they made. I think what benefit to the town it has made. I know years ago, there was a saying, results-based accountability. Well, I remember seeing results-based, but I never seen the accountability. Now the new cry is reality check budget, which I believe is the same thing, just different words. One thing I do when I do my budget, I have to keep my emotions out. I look at the black and white, what's coming in and what's going out. And I believe that's what the Board of Finance does, or should do. We got some big items coming up this year that are being looked into at the Board of Selectmen. They're not small items either. And I think you all know what I'm talking about because I know you've heard about them. Let's not have another year of extra funds, which I've seen in a lot of different areas. Let's keep the taxpayer in mind. And let's keep everybody in mind, including your seniors. Because we're the ones that mostly are going to be on fixed incomes. So anyways, I just wanted to get up, and I know I haven't been at a couple of meetings in a little while, but I'll be at more of them, you know that. And you know, I'm pretty outspoken. People say I am. I don't think I'm that outspoken. But anyways, I wanted to say this before any of this meeting started, and hopefully you'll take it to mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Sally Timmons, Pinecrest Road. I just wanted to make some comments in support of the Giving Closet. Apart from any kind of community-minded reasons for supporting that type of thing, I think it's a fiscally responsible decision to do that because it's going to save costs in the long run for the town. Clothing, you know, inadequate clothing for children that are in school becomes a huge distraction from their education. You can have anything from a kid that doesn't have something that's seasonally appropriate, that prohibits them from participating in recess. They don't have gym clothes. They can't participate in gym. Maybe they don't have enough clothes to have clean clothes every day, or to have anything that fits. And all of those things that create barriers that might result in those students not making it to school at all. If they do make it to school, they may be missing out on learning. If they don't make it to school, you have administrators getting involved, you have interventionists, you have social workers, and all of those things lead to a lot of increased costs. So it becomes a costly solution to not support those types of services because you're basically just costing the education budget more. And on the other hand, you could just make a small investment in the Giving Closet that would help to keep that education budget down. The other thing is too, is like schools aren't really equipped to address those kinds of problems. Teachers and paras and, interventionists, all those people, they're trying to deal with the consequences of the students not coming to school ready to learn. But if you can deal with those issues up front, you can solve the actual problem. So I just want to speak a little bit in support of services like the food pantry and the Giving Closet and prioritizing supporting organizations that are in town with our budget so that we can most directly help our community members. And to the people that are running the Giving Closet and the people that are using it, I know sometimes when barriers come up, you can feel like that maybe people in town don't support the cause, but I think there's a lot of people in town that do support the cause. So I just want to add that as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Tinley.
Amy French, Babcock Road. I just want to come up because we need to be reminded that that the funding that we're being asked for is where we're coming from on the giving closet. I have been put through the ringer this week. Stress, not gonna lie. I stood up at the Board of Selectmen's meeting and I voiced concerns and a question, and it has spiraled out of control. I don't know where it came from. In no way, shape, or form did I ever speak against the giving closet, nor did I say that I wanted it to close, nor is the giving closet closed because of Amy French. For those people for that nosy person that can go pound sand, that did the FOI, I did do the FOI for one reason and one reason only. And the concern for, it's not my concern for the people who have wrote letters or emails or anything. I asked the Board of Selectmen for one email, in concern for one email. I asked if the giving closet was to close due to Sarah, the no funding and Sarah not wanting to do it anymore because of the funding. I asked, did anyone step up and email a request for helping or volunteering for the giving closet? I was told no. That was my only intention for the FOI. It is not my concern who has reached out in support. I support the giving closet 1,000%. Despite what all of you think, that was not what I said when I stood up here. And I still support it today. I was told that the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center will turn you away by Sarah in her voicemail to me. You can't just go there and ask for toiletries. You have to show proof of power under the poverty level. I went to the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. I encourage each and every one who don't be ashamed to go to the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. I went there. What a great place. I went there and I said to them, I look like an idiot. I came here to see if I could get some toiletries or something. And they're like, well, what did you want? And I'm like, I don't know, shampoo, deodorant, something. And they're like, okay, you just got to fill out this paper. And I was like, that's it. I have the paper in my car. I forgot to bring it. They give you a slip. You just say that you're in this range. They don't ask for paperwork. They ask for nothing. They ask for a residency. That's it. They asked me if I wanted anything. I said, no, thank you very much. I'm all set. And off I went. My business is now I have some pictures that I can show you of my business, what is now being done to it because of this, which is terrible. We are a 501c3 also. We support individuals with disabilities in town. I have 2 individuals that join our program. I did go into Bob, fired up. I went in there saying, great, you opened it up for all of us. I encourage everyone who has a 501c to come before and ask for funding. However, I did say, yes, Max Snacks will come for 501c as a 501c3 for funding. You know what my funding is? My funding is our residents and our customers and our community coming in to our building to support Max Snacks. That's my funding from the town. But I encourage every 501c3, if this is what we're going to do, I hope they get it. I truly do. I just think that we're opening up a huge can of worms. I have to pay rent. We should just be thankful that the giving closet is here, that it's rent free. It's no maintenance. It's not paying maintenance, not paying electricity. I pay that. I just think we should be thankful for that. And I really just hope that you guys use it as opening up a can of worms. And as Sarah stated, that in the beginning, she wanted this as for compensation, not just insurance. An attorney, like I have to pay for my own. Other 501c3s, I'm sure, have to pay for their own. Like that's a big ask for our taxpayers. We have elderly in town. I know they say it's $1 something. It's not. Like that's not okay. Some people really stress living paycheck to paycheck. And now they have to worry about, we have to fund another thing. Yes, I understand. I've been told a million times throughout this week, we fund 501c3s. I get that. I get that. But these are established ones. And yes, we all have to start from somewhere. Heard that last time too. I just really, before I keep babbling, I just really hope that we take this into consideration of
thank you.
why it's being asked. And I'm completely for the giving closet. So all of you with your negative comments, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone else? Anyone online? Seeing none, we're going to move on to next item.
Yes. Hello,
Yep.
my name is Heather Young. I just got out of Westerly Hospital ER. I had wanted to come to the meeting, and I just want to voice my support for the Giving Closet, and I support Max Snacks. I think both organizations do so much for our community. And I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time speaking. I just had a kind of a horrible day at ER. But I promised that I would try to attend this meeting, and I feel awful that I can't be there. And I also wonder why the town has made our animal control officer also become a 503c nonprofit. Seems to
I'm not sure about that, Heather, but it's not, it wouldn't be really in our purview.
okay. Thank you for listening.
Of course, I hope you do well. Anyone else online? Can't see really hands, so. All right, well, there'll be another time for public comment at the end as well. So if you don't want to talk now, that's fine. We have an opportunity later. We're going to move on to agenda item number 4 with the presentation from Wheeler Library. I sent it out to everybody. All right, well, it was at town hall. I didn't. I just got it delivered tonight, so, but yeah, so did I.
Okay. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. See if I get this. My name is Diane Deedy, and I'm the director of Wheeler Library. It is my honor and privilege to make this presentation to the Board of Finance on behalf of the library. As many of you know, I started my position at Wheeler Library in July, just a few months ago. When I interviewed for this position, I was told about the library's renovation and restoration project and was very eager to join the library at this important juncture and become part of a team to improve the library for future generations. I am energized by North Stonington because I see it as a forward-looking town that invests in its future. I have been impressed with the community support North Stonington is known for. After this presentation, we will be happy to field any questions. We have representatives from our team here, and we will do our best to direct questions to the appropriate team member. Anything that requires a more in-depth response will be addressed with a follow-up response. In 1900, Wheeler School and Library was created and funded initially by the Wheeler family. It served North Stonington's secondary school and public library for over 40 years. The library donated land for a public school to be built for the town. And from that point on, the building has served as the town's library. The library's history reflects growth with the evolving needs of the community. As the heart of North Stonington, Wheeler Library offers resources, programs, opportunities for engagement, and enrichment that build our community. Today, our mission is to bring people, information, and ideas together. Our vision is to offer resources, programs, opportunities for engagement and enrichment that build our community. Our 125-year-old building needs an upgrade. The existing heating and cooling system is a retrofit into a 1900 structure and only provides central air conditioning to the main floor. Our 30-year-old boiler is not energy efficient and has exceeded its life expectancy. The top floor overheats during summer and is not usable. Air circulation in the building is poor. The drainage has become a critical issue that needs addressing. The library experiences dampness in the basement and often flooding during heavy rains, resulting in lost staff time remediating these problems. Ice develops throughout the rear parking areas in winter, and the Courage drainage system is failing, particularly the slab drains at the bottom of the east and west exterior basement stairwells, as well as the building's gutter system. Poor air circulation and on the basement level creates mildew, which damages material. Last, our classically designed landmark was designed as a school and library for the 1900 needs, and it needs to be modified to respond to today's library user. This does not mean changing the architectural features of the building. In fact, our project includes restoring parts of the building back to its original form. It means creating more flexibility within the space by adding a bathroom to the second floor and a meeting room on the first floor. And it means making the second floor available year-round for library use, programming, and public use. Our renovation committee has identified a $4 million project with these three critical core elements: HVAC replacement, drainage improvement, and activating interior spaces. At the core of our plan is an overhaul of the HVAC system with advanced technology to enhance efficiency and durability for all areas and levels of the library. Second, our plan includes improved drainage to minimize environmental impacts on the building. And third, our plan creates flexible, versatile areas to support diverse community programs and activities, individual needs, all while ensuring our facilities are accessible to all individuals, including those with disabilities. Through our architect, we have engaged with a leading MEP engineering firm to identify a new heating and cooling system for the building. After a thorough evaluation, the system that has been selected for our building is an all-electric air source heat pump system. The engineer ran a life cycle cost analysis, which was included in your packet, comparing a gas-fired condensing boiler to the electric heat pump system. It was decided not to pursue an oil-burning furnace option. While the cost to install the two systems was on par with one another, the annual carbon emissions for the air source heat pump system was 15.8 versus 173.9 for the gas-fired system. Lowering carbon emissions is a value we embrace in accordance to the future standards held by the state of Connecticut. Lowering carbon emissions is a key benefit of our project. The cost for the new heating and cooling system is just over $1 million for this project. Drainage improvements are the second core element of our $4 million project. We have had a civil engineer design a drainage system that improves the grade surrounding the building, allowing water to flow away instead of towards the building.
A system of trenches will be added, which allow water to gather underground, again, away from the building. Parts of our gutter system will be redone so water is properly whipped away from the building. And also included with the drainage improvements is the addition of off-street parking with foot pathways connecting to the back entrance. The third core element of our project is to activate the interior spaces in our building so that we can better serve our community. This includes adding a large meeting space on the first floor that will be available to both staff and the public. This meeting space can be used for programming, meetings, training, and private workspace. We also plan to raise the ceiling on the first floor to reveal a top row of windows that have been hidden under the dropped ceiling and help restore the first floor back to its original architecture. We plan to add an ADA compliant bathroom to the second floor, which will be very useful, especially when large groups are gathered for a program or event. We are coming to the town with a request to fund $1 million of a $4 million project. We have worked closely with our architect, HMA2, as well as Mattern Construction, and many subspecialists to develop a realistic current cost estimate for this $4 million project. Our ask from our town is to invest in the library so that we can continue to best serve our community for decades to come. As you know, we've been developing this project for many years. The fundraising aspect is something we've had strong success with. There has been an update with the $1 million Connecticut State Library grant we received in 2022. We were given the opportunity to take advantage of a $2 million grant and were encouraged to apply. We submitted the revised grant application with updated cost estimates in late August and are expected to receive approval at the end of November. We were advised to reapply for this larger grant, and we were told it was expected to be approved. Once this grant is approved, we must demonstrate that we have raised the matching amount of $2 million. We have raised $400,000 through private donations and events and have earmarked $600,000 from our endowment. We are asking the town to support this project for $1 million. In preparation for our project, we have had the building evaluated for vermiculite and how this impacts construction. Vermiculite cleanup and removal, as well as removal and cleanup of a bat colony in the second egress, commences this month and will be completed in a 6-week timeframe. This work is outside the scope of the project and is being funded privately. Outside the scope of this project is developing exterior spaces to create more park-like grounds. We have had plans developed for this next phase, but that work will be done under a separate funding initiative at a future date and is not part of this core $4 million project we have presented to you today. Our cost estimate has a 10% contingency with room to grow. We expect to be awarded the Connecticut State Library grant in November. From that point, the next piece we need to have in place is a demonstration to the state we have all funding in place. We would hope the town approves the $1 million funding by March or earlier. Once we have this funding in place and the State Bond Commission approval, we can begin the process of going out to bid. It is our goal to begin the project in August of 2026. Now is the time to commit to preserving our town's heritage for future generations. The Wheeler Library Renovation Committee and Board of Trustees, partnered with our architect and industry experts, have put years of thoughtful, careful planning into this next important step. We have reached out to our community, our representatives, and our state to help guide us to a project that offers best solutions for our library and how to best serve our town. We put before you the results of countless hours of community outreach, research, expertise, and industry standards. We thank North Stonington, its residents, our friends, and neighbors for supporting our library today and into our bright future. Thank you very much for your time, and we can take questions now.
Gary? Thank you. So, and nice to meet you.
Next.
We, as the Board of Finance, met as smaller subsets with some of the operations staff from the library and others, and had questions about, and we got zero feedback. And the only thing we've heard was that the grant guys were sort of regrouping. So we're caught a little flat-footed. Let me know if I'm speaking a little footed for us, for those of us that gave back or were expecting something back. We haven't heard anything until we saw this on the agenda, or the request to go on the agenda. So is there any feedback from the original questions about level of design? Where are we? Should we be holding a 10% contingency, or should it be higher at this point? Did we actually, sorry, what level of engineering do we have to support what you're asking for right now? You got to step up and talk to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The ones online.
So we have our architect on Zoom, and we have Eric Mattern here, who has been working with us to develop a current cost estimate, which is what this presentation to you.
But foundationally, sorry, Kate, and forgive me, it just seems really icky that we met, provided feedback, and heard nothing. Absolutely, we didn't hear that even that you were reconnoitering the grant approach. I mean, it's been silent to this board, and there's so much water under the bridge between then and now. It's even more awkward that you're not going back to the Board of Selectmen to make sure that their support still stands with what you're going forward with before you come to the Board of Finance. So can you help me? Why the no feedback on the original questions?
Can you give me an example of an original question that you didn't hear back on?
So we asked about the level of design and why we don't fund a design to the point where you could actually get estimates from the street or bids back prior to putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is what the project's going to cost. As I look at the documentation, it's great from a conceptual level, but to have a 10% contingency on what I saw in the presentation, I have concerns. This is probably to you, Mr. Mattern.
Good evening, Eric Mattern. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, and I'll be careful not to speak for Henry Meyerberg, who's the architect of record, but so the 10% contingency is reflective of what I believe is considered a 50% design development set of plans. So along with review of that set of plans, there have been over the course of, I believe the last 6 months or so, a number of meetings between our team, Henry's team, which consists of architectural design, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering, civil engineering. And then we brought together a team of subcontractors to work with us as well. So from the construction side, I completely understand the concern about pricing without a complete for bid or for construction set of plans. I would say it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation, that what was needed here was a control budget to be able to validate that the budget and the funding needs were realistic and that the project could proceed. So that's why the library team brought us on as part of that team to support the mission. I would say the amount of time spent and the thoroughness of the process is more than just a very rough order of magnitude. I would consider it a true control budget. A lot of thought was put into it with the anticipation of this being a project that has public funding involved. So some general conditions costs that tend to drive up the cost of public projects, surety bonds, prevailing wages, things of that nature were included in this estimate to try to have it be as all-encompassing as possible, with the anticipation that it does go out to public bid at a future date as well. So including building in some escalation for future pricing into that.
Sorry, I'm gonna go engineer on you.
Okay.
So you built into your plan, which, no offense, but the slide deck did not give me the comfort that you described with your level of design behind this thing. It seemed to be more conceptual. In fact, I saw conceptual on the drainage plans and some other, which always sort of makes me nervous when we're gonna fund a project that's at a conceptual level. But do you have built into the project some level of scope that you can cut out to deliver this thing for the $4 million?
So that was a large part of the exercise, was value engineering throughout what was the last 6-month period of working together to identify and segregate cost drivers in the overall budget, and then have a focus on what are the needed items, the must-haves, and then what could be optional. One of those, or some of the items discussed are the outdoor area that may not be part of this preliminary phase, because that's something that could be a future nice to have.
I heard it very clear that that was not part of the current scope.
Correct. So some of the functional items that are part of it, you saw the number for the HVAC system. That's a big number. Cost going into that comes from working in an existing building of historic nature and bringing in modern systems. The air source heat pump system, as was pointed out in the presentation, is a great opportunity to reduce carbon emissions and reduce for the library going into the future, but also create a space that brings comfort to the modern expectation.
Yeah, so I see an uptick of 50% between the heat pumps versus the boiler based on the spreadsheet, the truncated spreadsheet. So you go 16,000 as you go forward, 8,000 is your current with your boilers. I don't want to place, I'm not trying to catch you on numbers.
Sure.
But
yeah,
this is like the first deep dive into this. And I look at that and I look at a reduction of the endowment of 600,000 at a 4% return rate is going to be an uptick or a shortfall in the library's operating budget of another 25,000 that I assume they're going to look for the town to fund. There's some ticking and tying here that's got me a little concerned between spending the money to do what the library needs versus what the overall impact on the operating cost is going to be and how that's going to be funded going forward. And I think that in itself, in my opinion, says this presentation needs to be made to the Board of Selectmen prior to coming to us. I'm done.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. Welcome. I think in the to what Gary was saying in the last few conversations that we had 6-ish or so months ago, there was definitely some clear signals that we wanted more feedback, feedback isn't the right word, sort of a deeper look at what you're trying to do, more rigor around the estimates. And we wanted more communication. And I do feel like we got that tonight. So I do feel like we got some things answered that we wanted to get answered. I think with the work you've done over the last 6 months, and I realize these types of projects, they take that amount of time to get those kind of things done, was very helpful to hear in terms of how you're prioritizing the primary things. I imagine if you run into Scope Creek, you're going to have a problem, perhaps the bathroom goes away or something. I'm assuming that within your scope, you have some things that you'll be willing to let go if, you find escalating prices and costs in other areas for some reason. So I think there's a lot more to come here, but in terms of a first pass, based on some of the feedback that was shared, I do feel like you guys are moving in the right direction, reassessing the grant, going for a larger one, giving us a heads up on the timeline. Those were all things that we asked for before. So I want to say I appreciate that. Thank you.
Carl.
Thank you for coming. Glad to meet you. Carl Johnston. I have a couple questions. The heat pump system designed down to -20, -30, and the electric cost for that is there a backup system? Then there was a question earlier on the elevator. I don't know if it got addressed or if it's fixed or not, but that needed some upticks. I don't know if that's in here or not. And the drainage system seems like it's going to take care of the drainage off the building, but how about the basement? How did you design that? You're going to pump it up with pumps that have to have stuff to get the water up out of them two drain systems and dumped into your system? What was the other thing?
How about he addresses those one at a time?
Yeah, and
you.
you're gonna hammer you all the time. And then the same concern on the endowment. If you take some out of the endowment, you're gonna lose some income. So that's gotta come from somewhere too down the road, so.
All right.
It's more of a library board question.
Yeah, right. I won't touch that.
That one's more on the other side.
Yeah, and I'll be careful not to veer out of my lane as far as design goes too. So Henry, keep me honest as far as design conversations.
Maybe we'll hear from him and maybe you might have some answers to your questions. And then
Sure.
those, I'd like to hear from the architect.
Yeah,
just
no,
to-
that's all right. I can
And
still-
then Carl, we can go over those questions one at a time.
All right, so the first one was the heat pump system being all electric versus having a backup of something else. The heat pumps are getting a lot better, but my design of them is that they won't work well -20, -10 degrees for 2 or 3 days in a row. But the electric cost of that running seems kind of big. How did you figure that out, that it wouldn't, that other than the carbon footprint, the cost of the system versus if it's gonna run in the 4 or 5 days of super cold?
Yeah.
Or heat?
No, I'm happy to, respond to that and even come back to you with more detail since our mechanical engineer is not here, but we went through the sort of criteria and included dealing with the most severe weather conditions. And you're right, the technology of these systems keeps improving. In fact, in the latest model that we were actually looking at is very much about addressing those concerns. So numerically, I could give you some more detail potentially as a follow-up. And I think that's actually one of the opportunities of this meeting, and just to kind of say is not necessarily to answer every question right here, but to be able to come back with you with some more detail so that this really does become an exchange of information as well to provide those assurances. And whether that includes actually showing the calculations and the engineering documents even more fully than you saw in the slideshow presentation, because there's a lot of backup material from our engineering and our design work, as well as from Eric Mattern's team with the backup of the costs and the kind of communications with various, not just engineers, but also with the contractors of systems for these things. So that's a sort of general overall comment to that. But like I say, we're happy to provide any additional detail to kind of continue, to provide fuller explanations than we can provide.
Yeah, to go along with that, the upgrade of the electrical system, being in this town that we're at, have you checked with Eversource as far as whether they can supply you with the probably 1200 amp service is what you're going to need, or at least an 8, to cover the new additions of all the heat pumps and whatever else?
It was evaluated with our engineering, and they did feel that the electrical service was sufficient for what the operational needs were. Because we're going to much more efficient systems on the overall electrical throughout, including lighting and operation, et cetera, and also the mechanical systems themselves. So there's an efficiency that's built into this as well to address the draw.
Okay.
And I'll add to that during the summer time, for a period of, I believe it was at least a few months, we did put a load meter on the meeting, so we could, on the building, so we could identify just the daily loads. And we're able to identify at what would be considered peak times, air conditioning running. There were a couple community functions going on. So there were, I believe, maybe ice cream trucks plugged in, the elevator operational. So it was really the best opportunity over the course of the summer to evaluate the electrical load.
Okay. Then the drainage system that you're designing, I'm sure is designed for a parking lot system where the water goes underground and disperses. But they had also mentioned that their basement gets wet, which is the 2 staircases, and the drains aren't no good anymore. You've also got to deal with, I believe, the water level of the river versus the swamp across the street. So I don't know how you designed that area and learning if you had enough drainage to pick that up.
And I'll throw in that H&H Engineers was the civil engineer on this. And I'm sure we could get more specific information from Seamus at H&H. I will say, I know that two of the biggest additions are on the west end of the building in the grass area. On the east end of the building are two underground gallery systems that would capture the water via catch basin structures. And then it actually gets sent north to the street to two existing catch basins in the driveway. So that's an attempt to capture some of that rainwater right now that's creating problems around the building foundations and the stairwells.
Yeah.
And the rear parking lot as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of amplify that, just the notion, and as you aptly pointed out, that, you know, drainage away from the building, so much right now is actually going into it. And so the kind of curbs that we were investigating to actually install around those areaways of the stairway, again, one of the main issues is water coming down into it. It's not rising up from anything.
Sorry. But I spent a lovely Easter wading through the basement of the library, moving out a bunch of paperback novels that were floating.
Yeah.
In the flood, it came up through the floor because the water table rose to that level. And the only thing I just want to caution you about is the two catch basins you identify in the street are dry wells. They're not hooked up to a storm drain. They don't direct anywhere. It's just stacked brick in there. So
Understood.
Yeah. Take a look. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, looking at the project timeline, you know, we have, you're not even going to hear back from the state until late November. I think this was a perfect start to this process, you know, to get the dialogue going again, and to hear from Mr. Matter and I'm sorry, your name, the architect?
Henry Meyerberg.
Okay. So we thank you for this, and I think it's, you know, as we move forward, I'm sure there's going to be additional questions, and now we have a faces to go with along with the board and the director, the people that are actually involved and get into detail. I'm sure that's going to be invaluable for members of the board. You know, should the Board of Selectmen deem it necessary to go back before them, or if the board, our board says we're not voting until it goes back to the Board of Selectmen, we have time to do that. I can imagine getting another presentation maybe in mid-December or early January, once you hear back from the state. And perhaps we could have, you know, everybody that's on board with, involved in the planning, to be here for any, you know, maybe it might be a joint meeting, or, you know, with the Board of Selectmen, so we don't have to do a presentation once. But we have plenty of time, and this was a great start to getting back with this project moving forward. So great presentation. Thank you guys for being here. If we have additional questions, that's fine. I just wanted to.
I have one more, and I think it's for Kate, but there was a topic raised that you were encouraged to go back to the state for additional funding. Where did that encouragement originate? Because this board has not had a lot of direct conversation with the library board or the design team on moving this forward. So I'm curious as to where that direction came.
So we applied for and received the grant in 2022. And the project had its own timeline to it, the grant and its requirements for the timeline. And as we were moving through the process of getting funding and pulling this whole project together, the scope of our project changed. And that in itself was a contingency with the grant that, the project can't change a certain amount and still be in compliance with the grant. So the grant coordinator, who we've been working so closely with all these years, advised us, and she said, look, we're now offering $2 million grants. They weren't before. We were applying for the highest amount. And she strongly encouraged us, your project has changed a certain percentage and you're eligible for this $2 million. And that we were given the advice to.
That makes perfect sense. I wasn't sure whether you got feedback from this board or the board of selectmen.
No.
It came from the state
Yeah.
side. That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Yeah, and also Gary, just wanted to, you kind of caught me off guard with your first comments, and from our perspective, we spent the last 6 months listening to all the feedback that we got from all of you and very carefully putting together the project that we have before you now. And it was all directly related to all of the feedback that we had gotten initially from all of the members of the Board of Finance and town people and et cetera. So it's not like we in any way are trying to blindside you with this, coming to you at this point.
So that might be the gap, because what I anticipated, so we met in several small groups. And you heard individual feedback from many people, but I never heard, okay, this is our feedback. We're going to go away and address it. It went completely silent. So we had me personally, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I think I was notified that they were supposed to present to us, I think in February. And I think during that time, after the feedback and then hearing that you have the ability to get a higher grant,
right,
things were put on
We had to-
hold, and I was told that you were not presenting, we were going to put things on hold at that time, and then last.
And that was but that was the last this board heard.
Correct. Until September, when Kate reached out to me to say that.
Well, yes, but this board, the entire board heard when it hit the agenda or shortly before it hit the agenda. So that's where I was caught a little flat.
Well,
It went completely
no,
silent.
that's not true. Because I texted you guys to say that they want to present. And I texted that twice. Once when she first asked, and then again when they wanted to be on the agenda.
I'll have to take a look, Mike.
You can.
Thank
I'll
you.
show it to you.
All set?
Please.
I'm going to move away from the construction side, leave that to that side of the table. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the timing and how the funding works, so I can have a better understanding of that. I did see the timeline that you provided, but with that, I understand to get the commitment from the state, you need a commitment from us. Is that how, I want to be clear about a few steps here, but that'd be the first one. So how, the chicken and the egg thing here, so.
Emily, do you want to speak to that?
We should know in late November if we are
Who are you?
awarded the grant. And then we have 3 years to secure matching funding.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
At the beginning, yes. So,
Okay.
So that starts the process. You get a contingent grant from the state. And then other sources have to come to the fore. And exactly, I'd like some detail about how you would see the funding from the town be provided to meet the need of the grant. That would be one thing. And
How
then
about-
this grant-
How about you answer that question?
What's that?
Could you answer that question?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you know the answer to that?
Meaning, I think what he means is like, you have grant money, you have fund money, and you have town money, right? Who's
So far,
getting,
so good. Go ahead.
when does the town money, when are you expecting the town money to be?
No,
That's not it?
How are you expected? How are we expecting the town money to?
No.
When?
What type of thank you. What type of a commitment? How does our commitment work?
I believe,
to
and
fund
I
these
need to
things?
double check this, but I believe a promise or a written promise from the town that says we agreed to, we don't have to have the money in the bank.
Okay.
But I do believe, and I'm going to need to double check that, but We did ask that at one of our last meetings, the last go around, and we were assured that as long as we have a promise from the town that they are going to fund this project.
Okay, so, but I would suspect that there would be conditions as to the way the town funds it. In, what manner? Will it be X number of dollars a year, a block amount of money? And in tandem with that, what I'm also getting at is the timing of drawing funds from the state and from the town. Your funds that you've raised, you've got them.
Mhm.
So the order that, not to answer tonight if you don't know, but the order that the town's money would be put into the project
Mhm.
versus the state's. I would suspect that your funds, the library funds, would go in first.
Mhm.
And so then the question is, how does it happen from there? Who goes in next?
Okay.
And how do those draws happen?
I don't want to speak out of turn, so I want to get a little bit more information so we have the
Right, that's-
exact right information for you on that. But
Because it's-
that's one of the pieces of information we'll come back to you with.
Because it naturally, the louder we go in, the better the town is.
Yes.
But I
Mhm.
have a suspicion that the state's gonna want that same position. So it'd be good to know if the town funds or whatever other funds are available need to be put into the project before you can draw on the grant.
Mhm.
And then what are the conditions of getting the grant funded?
Okay.
For another day.
Okay, that's great.
that's a-
Thanks for that
Just
question.
Just to add on, it's also a cash flow thing.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's
is
the
it,
whole thing.
do we have to allocate $1 million that sits there and never to be touched, but the
Mhm.
town can't use it?
Yep.
Or is it something that comes in?
I understand. I will get a definitive answer on that.
Also, could you,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
check on that? You're not going nowhere.
Someone else could come up here, maybe.
You might also want to check with the grant, how much they're going to hold until your project is finished.
Mhm.
At that point, do we have to fund a little extra to cover that, to have your thing finished,
Mhm.
fill your paperwork, and then it comes back?
Yep.
So you want to check on that point?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I do think I know, but I really want to double check. Okay. Thank you.
This might be for Mr. Matter. Has there been a complete like hazmat survey of the building of the areas that are going to be modified or in construction?
So I can answer yes. We did not administer that, and I don't know if either Kate or Henry wants to speak to that, but it was done in the in-between session of the initial time that we engaged with the library in 2023, and then re-engaging this past year. So I don't know the name of the firm, either Henry or Kate, if either one of you knows. But I know it was a comprehensive study, and that's the vermiculite was brought up as something being dealt with. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to defer to Mike.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mystic Air Quality came out and they did a survey of the building.
Yep.
There were 3 areas that were noted to have potential issues. One is the downstairs door. One was ladder well 1, the treads, the stair treads. There's a mastic glue that holds those down that was old from pre-1990 renovation.
Mhm.
And then there's potential vermiculite in the attic. So we gathered vermiculite and we sent it out for individual lab testing. The test results came back negative for vermiculite. However, for asbestos rather, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
The vermiculite was sent to an additional lab to find out where it was from. It was from Libby, Montana. So it qualifies for a rebate program just because of where it was.
Mhm.
The state of Connecticut adopted a policy from the federal government that states any vermiculite, regardless of origin, has to be treated as though it contains asbestos.
Yep.
So we had 3 firms come in. We had 3 firms come in to look at the project for the abatement. Out of those 3 firms, 2 firms provided proposals for the abatement. We opted to continue with that abatement. The bats that became an issue in ladder well 2,
Mhm.
we opted to move forward. So our abatement covers both the hazmat issue, if you would,
Yep.
in the attic, as well as the bat abatement. The mastic will also be removed, and we will put down stair treads until the project is complete, and that portion of ladder well 1 is replaced.
Okay.
Does that answer your question,
Yeah,
sir?
answer my question. The other question I have, and it might be for Kate, would be if the 10% contingency gets completely wiped out and everything, what is the contingency of who's going to be on the hook if there's a large cost overrun on the project?
So we will reduce the scope of the project if there is a large cost overrun. That is our plan. And we've very, very carefully cost estimated this project. And we have addressed the vermiculite. We've tested all areas where we're disturbing walls and have, taken that step toward addressing that issue. So that should not, impact the cost of the project. That would have been a possible unforeseen cost, for example. But to answer your question, if this goes wildly over $4 million, we are not going to be coming back to the town to ask for more money for our project. I mean, how we will address this is we're going to reduce the scope of the project.
Does that affect how much rebate you get back from the state on your grants?
We don't get rebates.
Well,
Oh, you mean, well, this is no, our $2 million grant is for a $4 million project. So this will be a $4 million project.
thank you.
Just to follow up on that then. How we go forward from here, I think, well, first of all, there's no big structural work being done. It's not like you need to remove a wall in the library and rebuild the whole superstructure of the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So with that, along that line, with whatever new material we get, if we identify the order of which things will be considered to see what would be eliminated from the project, that would be helpful to me to understand if you were to see a big overrun.
Yeah,
What,
I mean,
what might not be done?
Okay, well,
That's-
we will definitely provide what would get struck. And two things that come to mind would be the meeting room on the first floor and the bathroom on the second floor.
The bathroom.
Yeah, we're putting a
That's
bathroom in the
serious.
second floor.
Just looking at the timeline again, when you're referencing that you need to have local funding in place, obviously the money that you have from fundraising, that's a given. The $1 million, I mean, you have a project that the Board of Selectmen votes it through if they feel it is deemed worthy. It comes to us and we vote as whether or not to send it to the town.
Mhm.
Is that sufficient for the state to say you have local funding? Because in my opinion, it'd have to be the referendum decision
Yes.
before
Agree.
you have, because your timeline has January, the State Bond Commission approves the grant if the library has local funding in place. That's January to March. Okay. So it would be after the town referendum. Okay. Like that's what, so are you, I mean, we have a referendum generally in April or June, is it June? May, I forgot a month. In May. So are you anticipating a separate yeah, I'm the chair. I forgot May. Are you anticipating a separate referendum for this project?
I mean, I think that's a place where we'd like to partner with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to determine what would make the most sense. To couple it with, the annual referendum, or if it should be a separate item. I think that's something we would appreciate strategizing with the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen about that.
Yeah, that's something that we definitely all have to talk about because I mean, you're right in the middle of budget season when we're the busiest we are. And we're going to the town with a budget in May. And then we're going to talk about another $1 million on top of that. It's a lot of pieces and, but I mean, it's doable.
Yeah, so,
We'll talk about it.
all right, well, look to you for advice on that.
So I think maybe we'll just plan to obviously do another presentation. Maybe we'll do like a smaller one with, Mr. Mattern and the architect and Henry and whoever else is involved. If that's the case, we'll let you know.
Okay.
Gary?
As all the enthusiasm drains from your voice, I think this needs to go back to the Board of Selectmen before it comes back to us.
And we'll talk about that.
Is that noted but ignored?
No, it's not. Not.
I'm kidding. I'm just like, when would we talk about that? Because I want to make sure I understand what the timeline here is and what we are here.
My feeling would be that we plan another presentation whether it's with the Board of Selectmen or not, and then most likely it's going to go back to the Board of Selectmen and then come to us.
If it goes to the Board of Selectmen and comes back to us, I'd like to understand what the Board of Selectmen's thoughts on how this should be funded. This is a big ask for this town. And it shouldn't just come to us for an approval to go forward. We should understand what their thinking is as to how this would be funded.
Absolutely. And I think there's going to be questions about whether it's bonded or, or how it's going to get funded. And, there's definitely things that we need to talk about.
Agreed, and I do think some of that's going to be driven by what the state will require for their grant and how the funds would be handled for the entire project. So I think it's all together.
Correct. And then Carl had a great point about sometimes the state wants you to do the project and then then they come and give you the money.
Right.
Or at least part of it. So, I mean, your questions are very well taken. Go ahead.
Do you have a CPA or a legal counsel helping you with the grant as far as that goes? Okay. Do you have a counsel working with the state and the grant? No, so you've made that application independent. Okay. All right, well, we can work on it.
Yeah, I just want to add the last two questions. So the question about what happens if the project goes wildly over budget. Something that we discussed, particularly in the last meeting where we finalized the budget that you've seen today, was a suggestion for the project delivery method to include a construction management style delivery method with the construction manager at risk. The idea would be to create a guaranteed max price with that. And then the construction manager would be at risk for anything beyond that, particularly if they underestimate the job. We did, as part of the process in the last 6 months, we opened walls, we did drone inspections. So we did our best alongside the design team to get inside the areas you can't see with the naked eye to support the design process and try to get ahead of some of those unknown, unforeseen. Impossible to get to all of it, right? Once walls come down, that's when you see everything. But we felt comfortable with the 10% contingency based on what we did explore.
So, sorry.
That's right. I stepped up. Yeah, I
You
asked for
opened
it.
Pandora's box.
Yeah.
So it would be good to see the holdback list associated with that GMAX, because we all know a GMAX is only as good as unforeseen conditions. Because once the unforeseen conditions, so I'd like to understand what we're going to march forward with, what we're going to hold back with until we're sure we have the money to deliver the project within the allowed budget. I'm sure you'll have that, right?
Correct. That'd be
excellent response.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick point. So I appreciate your time and questions, and obviously we have some discussion, and it is a big ask, so all valid. But one point directly to you, Gary, is when we did go through the first phase and we did talk to the Board of Selectmen and we did bring this potential project forward, the ask was for $1 million. It was approved 2-1, and it was up to $1 million, which makes sense. And although we've run into cost creep just because it's taken so long, and we've been trying to do our due diligence, whether it felt like we were going blank or whatever you want to say, there was nothing but hard work on our end and trying to do exactly what we were asked by the Board of Finance. So personally, I struggle with that. We just did nothing. That really doesn't sit well, but let me just finish. Our ask to the Board of Selectmen, which was approved, was up to $1 million. And that continues to be our ask. It's $1 million, up to $1 million, not more. So whether there's discussion with the Board of Selectmen, or there's back and forth, or we have to come back in January, or we work with you on budget or whatever to make sure this works for the whole town and for everybody, I personally don't think it needs to go back for a vote because it was voted on and we have asked for no more money from the town. And I just want to leave it there. Thank you.
So let me put something away before I possibly get a visit from John Murphy again. I did not mean to say that the Board of Trustees from the library was doing nothing. What I was trying to articulate was we heard nothing. It was radio silence. We didn't know what was happening. This is the first time we've heard that the project was still going. Last we heard was that the funding went away and you were sort of regrouping. And there was not much after that. So I apologize if it came across as I felt the Board of Trustees from the library was doing nothing. That was not my intent. To get to John's point about going back to the Board of Selectmen, just for the amount of water under the bridge between then and now when they voted on it, I think we need to revisit because things change. The town's budget needs change. Something changed in the scope of the library that allows you to go forward that's not really apparent to me because we've had a year and a half or 2 years. Just escalation alone should have driven this up. So some level of scope changed, and I don't know what that is, but that needs to be articulated to both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. That was where I was going. So I'm sorry, John, if it seems like another lap around the track, but it's okay.
Bob?
I didn't even think I was going to speak yet. I'm saving it all for the giving closet. I have to disagree with you, Gary. I have to agree with John. The scope of the project has not changed when it comes to dollars. The Board of Selectmen voted 2-1 to approve this up to and not to exceed $1 million to go to the Board of Finance. It kind of seems like we're doing this again, where you're doing our job and we're doing your job. So, sorry, Sarah, but I think that you're vetting this out, and that's great. But I think if you ask Lou, he'd say your job is to figure out, can the town afford this project? And I agree that I like the questions about, can we do 500 and 500, or is it all $1 million at once? And how soon does it have to? Those are all great Board of Finance questions that I don't need to ask. But to tell you the process, we've already moved it to your court for you to be the finance board and figure out how, if we can afford it and how we're going to do it. Whether it be bonding, how we're going to do it. We can suggest, but what if we come to you and you say, we want to do bonding and you vote no on the bonding? So why isn't the Board of Finance figure out what it is, how we want to finance this project? When after you, if you say you accept this project to go back to the Board of Selectmen, it does come back to us, not before it goes back to you. It comes back to us and you're done. We're the ones that then have to vet out the project, the final project, and say, does this worthy of going to a town meeting? And we can set up the town meeting in such a way to say this will never go to a vote at the town meeting and go right to a referendum. But we still have to have a public hearing and or a town meeting. So it's going to come back to us to vet out the entire project again. All we said was at the time, we think it's a worthy project to go to the Board of Finance, to have you answer, to get your answers to the financial questions, then come back to us, and then we'll vet out the project and say, is this a good project for the town? And we'll send it to a town meeting or not. So we do that with everything. So it's, yeah, so I disagree. We've already approved at this point. So what, if it gets through you, it comes back to us. If it doesn't get through you, it's dead. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe I'm stepping into your lane, Bob, but scope drives cost, and cost is what we need to accommodate. So,
and it's so good of you to extract all these answers for me. So now I know the answers to these questions that we didn't ask.
So $1 million, if it's $1 million and it's hard and fast, then we just have to figure out where we're going to come up with $1 million, which 20 $1.4 million budget. We just add another million on and away we go.
Well,
But not done, thank you. This is, it gets into a deeper discussion as to how we fund this because it's a 501c3, it's a private entity, open to the public. And there's been discussions about undesignated fund, and I don't know if that's the right approach for this because the way the undesignated was funded and the way the policy reads, it's for unforeseen town budgeted activities. And the fact that the Wheeler Library is a private entity, does it fit in that funding model? So forgive me if I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm trying to put together something that makes sense in my mind to move it forward.
But couldn't that be part of how we fund it? Couldn't that be part of the referendum question? Does the town agree to take $1 million out of our undesignated fund to fund this project? That could be part of the question in the referendum.
Well, I'm not sure because based on the Board of Finance's charter and what we're here to do, we set policy and we make sure the Board of Selectmen adhere to the policy. So is that something that goes to the town or is that something that we decide here? That's kind of what, I spent a fair amount of time with the last couple of weeks wandering around in my hayfield, wondering how this fits. So forgive me, Bob, if I'm in your lane, but
actually, I
if
think
the questions aren't asked on your side, I'm going to ask them on my side.
And I think that's wonderful. I think that the more questions asked, the more clarity we have on this project. And the more clarity we have is whether we will make a better decision going forward, whether we go forward or not, as we have is more clarity in how the project's going to be done. What they've come with today is light years ahead of where we were a year ago. So I have to pat them on the back and say, yes, you've done some work, a lot of work. And now we want to go to the next level, I'm soon to, and if you're helping the Board of Selectmen by asking these questions, that's great. But it will come back to us before it goes to a town meeting.
Yeah, so, okay.
But I don't think we're going to vote
I'm not
again.
necessarily at the point where I want to pass it through the wicket where we decide whether it goes to a board of a town meeting or not. I would like to understand foundationally whether the basis is solid enough to deliver the project for what it's projected to be. Because, Bob, whether you recognize it or not, if the library's doors go closed and we run into some unforeseen condition that is outside the scope of the project and the library doors don't open, 90% of this town believes that the Wheeler Library is a town entity and they're going to look to the selectmen to open the doors. That's what I'm watching. So forgive me. It's just my way.
Oh, there's no forgiving. You're asking a lot of great questions that the Board of Selectmen will hear these questions, but I'm here and the other ones will hear them. And it'll help us make our determination whether it goes to a town meeting or not. So whichever board asks the questions, they're getting asked. But as far as going back to us before it comes back to you, I don't think that's necessary because the dollar amount has not changed.
So sorry. We should probably take this up in the parking lot afterwards because it's about to go.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to ask the foundational questions that gives the Board of Finance and the taxpayers a comfort level that the project can get delivered for what it's estimated at. It's not purely, $1 million, knock yourself out. Because there is a point where if bad things happen, we're all going to have to answer to it. And if we haven't asked these questions in advance, shame on us. I was at the meeting where you passed it to the Board of Finance, and I was appalled how few detailed questions the selectmen asked about this project. This is a big ask for this town. This is 3/4 of a hook and ladder truck, right? This is 3 road crew trucks. I mean, this is a big ask for this town, and I would expect the Board of Selectmen to ask the questions that we've asked here. So if you want to ask them, I'll back down, but I need to see somebody ask.
I think it's at this point. Sarah, give me a second.
No, it's fine. Wrap it up.
There's no question that this matter will be on many agendas between now and March. For us to discuss, for us to have anybody that we want here to answer questions and to discuss whether we think that it needs to go back to the Board of Selectmen or not. To John's point and to Bob's point, it's the ask hasn't changed. Can the town afford it? And certainly if we're going to say they're going to afford it, we got to know that this project is going to be delivered and making sure that they know how they're going to do it. So all these questions are very valid. I think we've done enough for tonight, but it's, you know, this is not the end of the discussion.
Can I
Good.
just then continue with that, ask, what do we see as our timeline from here forward for us? The Board of Finance, because what I'm hearing is it's not going to go back to the Board of Selectmen for any change in the ask. So I guess I need to
I would
understand
think
what
that we would
need.
have several meetings where we have people that are involved in bringing this project forth. Everyone involved in the construction aspect of it.
So
And we'll also have meetings about how we're gonna finance this amongst us.
okay,
And then we'll probably have a final presentation after the state about the state approval and how we're gonna go forward, you know, from January to a referendum.
Can I,
so if I could, just to confirm that would suffice for the needs of the grant, because that's what we're talking about here is the grant is awarded and then you've got quite a bit of time to get that final commitment from the town to match what they require. So with
We don't send it back to the Board of Selectmen to put it to a vote about whether it goes to a town until we're satisfied.
Right, so I guess all I'm asking then, Mike, is that what are we looking at here from our perspective? Because we're gonna be getting into budget season and that's gonna be taking.
I'd like to do a
time.
lot of this work before we get to
Yeah,
January.
That's where I was going. So if
Yes.
if we're looking at doing in the normal course of our meetings.
Correct.
That we can meet the needs of what they have to deal with over the next.
That would
couple
be,
of
that would be
months.
my goal, yes.
Or that's just some clarity so that we'll all understand how we go forward from here. in
This
in
is a
very
start and
timely
we,
manner.
yeah, we got a lot of work to do and it's gonna be on, I think, every agenda.
Good. Okay.
so if I can just offer like immediate next step so people feel comfortable, like what the next thing is. I think there were a couple of questions asked of the library board and their team. So it would be great to get that information back. If we can have it within the next 2 weeks, we could put that on the agenda. We could review the answers to the questions and we could also discuss what we think the right order of operations is in terms of moving forward to Lou's point. That
Sure.
would be a great agenda item.
Yep. Oh, it's not tabled, it's just gonna, this is the end of tonight's. And it will be on there'll be a library discussion on every agenda.
Love your library. Would you mind putting in writing what the questions are so we make sure we know everything you're looking for? Could the Board of Finance do that? And then we will get them back to you in 2 weeks. No, you just asked. Yeah, and we want to make sure we know what the deliverables are.
Yeah, we'll figure it.
Okay, thank you.
If you, just,
Just real quick. There's been a lot of talk about last year's scope versus this year's scope. And as anyone may or may not know, scopes change. Like you said, scope drives cost, right? So there has to be some assumption on your part that says they've done their due diligence, they've revised their scope, they've requested additional funding, or they were given the opportunity to get additional grant funding to cover their new scope, regardless of what yesterday's was. We've put our best foot forward to identify our shortfalls and overcome them. We've done our best to identify questions that were posed at the last board meeting. And not only do we take note of them, but we've answered them. And as it's been pointed out, we've done our due diligence. And I was going to point out, as Kate pointed out, if we could get a written list of questions, that's the only way to put it down where I can sit down with our team and say, this is what Gary wants. This is what Lewis wants. This is what the townspeople want to know. Because at the end of the day, most people don't talk about scope driving cost.
So I hear you, and I will put that in writing for you and Kate. But now your homework assignment. identify, and you said it, and Kate said it. I don't know if I heard it from anyone else, but you had enough scope change that the state gave you direction to reapply for a bigger grant. I'd like to know what those scope changes are, because scope changes would mean what you articulated to the Board of Selectmen and then to us previously changed. So I'd like to understand what's the subset of things that changed.
Would you
Because
like that?
It wasn't clear in the presentation.
Would you like that as a document? Or would you, I want to phrase that.
I could take
Would
it
you
as
like it as a
bullets.
written document, or
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
like it as an architectural
No,
blueprint?
I could just take it as bullets. Yeah,
Bullet points?
yep.
Outstanding.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
If you have particular questions that apparently no one wrote down, just email them to Amy and she'll get them to the proper people. All right, well, thank you, Henry, and
I think Henry, did you want to speak?
Well, I just want to say that I think I got some clear questions. Like, A, is the electrical load sufficient for when it gets really cold out? Is there enough for the heat pump system? And is the drainage really going to do the job to keep the basement dry enough? Or do we have enough reason? Is there other mitigation aspects that need to be done in terms of the project? Those are two big things I heard. I don't need to wait to hear to get it in writing. I'll try to advance those right away.
Thank you.
Amy Kennedy, Ruderman Road. I just want to say that we're not setting a precedent here. The town and the library have had a more than 1 century partnership of support in both directions. And during my tenure as the librarian and Gary's tenure on the Board of Trustees, we had several capital projects that were supported by the town. So although you can call us a nonprofit organization, a private organization, we are an association library. We are the public library for North Stonington. And I think the town has a responsibility to help us maintain the building. And I also think it's a blessing that the library has an endowment, because it means that the town is not 100% responsible for all of the costs of running the library. So I don't think it should ever be seen as a negative, but more as a wonderful savings account. So I just wanted to be clear that we're not setting a precedent. You have been supportive in the past. And I hope we can look to the Board of Finance for support again. Thanks.
All right, with that, we'll save everything else for public comment. If you still want to talk about anything with regard to this presentation. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to agenda item number 5. The Board of Selectmen is presenting on the Giving Closet Inc. appropriation request.
Okay, so I'm here for reason of advocating for this $8,000 request that was approved 2-1 by the Board of Selectmen at our last meeting for the Giving Closet to be an appropriation that would take the funds out of our undesignated fund. With that said, I think that when I talked about this at the Board of Selectmen meeting, I hit a lot of negatives first. I wanted to make a point that sometimes we shoot the messenger and you don't listen to the message. I'd say 97% of the people who live in North Stonington have not weighed in on the Giving Closet, maybe 95%. But and that happens in everything we do as town leaders, typically, except for maybe an election. Even when the one coming up, we won't get the majority of people from town voting. So we'll say 95% of the people have not weighed in, 5% have. And I'd say of those 5% that have, if you look at the emails and you look at who comes to the meetings and you listen to the comments, I'd say it's probably 2-1 that has been favorable for the Giving Closet. I can't just assume that if you put that all the way through the entire town, it would still stay 2-1 in favor. But at least of the people we've heard, it's been 2-1 in favor. And I think that's what the selectmen heard. The other thing is we have, when we talk about the Giving Closet, we talk about more than just what it was designed for originally. Originally, we all thought the Giving Closet was They get clothes donated to them and they give them out for free. They figure out what's good enough to go on a rack. Is it soiled? Is it ripped? If it's decent that someone wear it, they put it on a rack. If not, they put it in bags and put it in the Lions Club bin that's in the parking lot. So it's a win-win for both the Giving Closet and the Lions. But because we don't have a social services or a human services division or a department, I know Wyona spoke about that during budget season, is why don't we have that? And we're now moving towards that. The Board of Selectmen have had 3 guest speakers already, try to gear us towards, by March, having a full-blown human resources division. The reason we need that is because we know there's people in North Sounding that need help, and it's not always the seniors. We want to continue to be everything we can for the seniors, but we also need to do, what do we do for the people who want seniors? And because we really don't have that definite place to go yet, we're hoping that in March, everyone will know that if they've got they're in crisis, financial crisis, whatever crisis, emotional crisis, there's one place to go, and it's going to be our human services department. In the meantime, since we don't have that, the word kind of traveled that, hey, go to the Giving Closet, because Sarah will do more than just give you free clothes. She'll have solutions for you. She'll find out where you might be able to get a meal, where we can get money to get you housing. How do we get the kids clothes? There's a lot that she's done with families in our town. You know, if you follow social media, and I don't post on social media, but I do read, and I read all the wonderful things that the Giving Closet has done. So we know that they do wonderful things. Now, when we look at the 1/3 and 2/3, the 1/3 of the people who were against funding the Giving Closet, those are not bad people. They're not people that don't want us to help people. What they're doing is they're questioning us taxpayers, and I agree they should. How is their tax dollars being spent? Is that $8,000? Where is this going? How are we using it? Because that's what a taxpayer would want to know. Not, hey, I don't like the Giving Closet. They all love the Giving Closet. They just want to know where their money's going and why are we funding it? Why isn't somebody else funding it instead? That's mainly the questions. The question on the other side, the 2/3 that are in favor, saying, hey, we just know they do wonderful things. We want to have them keep doing those wonderful things. I'm looking at this $8,000 as almost like gap funding from now until budget season. Because in budget season, the Giving Closet is going to have to come in front of my board and your board and then justify whatever their ask is in the budget for next year's budget. And there's nothing guaranteed. As a matter of fact, if we have a full-blown human services department, we'll probably taking a lot of the lift off the Giving Closet, because now they can go back to where they were originally, what they were originally going to do, which is giving clothes out to people who needed clothes for free. Just like Linda gives out food, they were giving out clothes. But because Sarah and her group do such wonderful things, they've become more than that. I don't think they ever intended to become our human services department, but since we don't have one, they kind of became that. So kudos to them for doing that. And now I think they need some funding to get from now until the spring. And when they come in front of us in the spring, they might not be asking for more. They might be asking for less, because they might be saying, hey, we don't need all this, but we're getting funding from donations. We're getting funding from maybe a small amount of funding from the town. And we're getting funding from wherever else, fundraisers, wherever else they're going to get funding from. But their need might not be as strong, because if we have a human resources department, that's going to be taking a big load off of them. So I'm looking at this as gap funding to get from now until, we'll say, the middle to July 1st of next year, which is the budget. I think that those people that can't advocate for themselves, those people that we know live in this town, I mentioned in the Board of Selectmen meeting, if you drive to a city and you say to me, go to Norwich or go to even Griswold, go to New London, find me poverty. I know where to drive and find you poverty. You say to me, Bob, drive around North Stonington and find me poverty. I don't know where to do it, because I drive around, I see cows and walls and trees and streams, and we have a beautiful town, and we assume that everyone's living a beautiful existence. I don't know that. I didn't know why Nona's well was dry until she told me that, because you don't see that stuff. You don't see that until people come, and nobody walks in my door and says, gee, Mr. First Selectman, can I get food, or where can I get clothes? They don't do that. So they go to other places. And in the last year or so, it's mostly them going to the Giving Closet. So I think that what we have to do, especially going into the holiday season, the $8,000, it's nowhere near the original ask that was brought up during the budget season. But I think it's a good number to gap fund this association to take care of those people who need help. They again, they don't advocate for themselves. They want to stay private. They want to, and I agree, they're proud people. They want everything to be done in a way that it can be private. No one needs to know their business, and they know that if they go to certain places in town, that's what it's going to be. If they go to see Linda Costanza and they need food, she's going to drop bags of food on their doorstep at night. No one even knows it's happening, and that's the way people want to operate. So I think I'm advocating for the Giving Closet. I think we should fund it. I think, and I also want to. Someone made a statement earlier that said we're setting a precedent. We're not setting a precedent. We have a lot of people that aren't in town that have 501c3s that come to us, come to the Board of Selectmen with ask. We get phone calls, we get letters. You don't see them on the budget because we'll deny them if they can't. We ask, what are you going to do for North Stonington? If they can't answer that question, they get denied. Same thing with in town. So this would be the first in-town 501c3 that we're giving any funding to, but it doesn't mean that all 501c3s weren't created equal. They're not all the same. And if I say to someone, what do you do for our town? And they can't answer me how they, like I get one in Norwich that says, we helped one person in your town, we help most of the people in Norwich. Chances are they're not going to get in our budget. But if they can show me that like Pawcatuck does, how many people they help in our town, they get in our budget. This is a case where we're not setting a precedent. Anyway, I encourage any 501c to come and see the Board of Selectmen and ask to be in our budget. We'll vet that out before you even see it. So it's not, I want to just clarify that station. We're not that statement. We're not setting a precedent. So that's it. That's what I have. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But my opinion is for those people that don't advocate for themselves from now until July 1st, I think we should, until we get, and we're hoping by March to have, that's when Teresa retires, to get a human services department up and running and have a full-time director, and it'll be different than it is now. But between now and then, the one place that people seem to go for social services is the Giving Closet. And I think, I don't know where else they would go if it wasn't the Giving Closet. So that's all I've got on this. Question? I guess we have, so the formal request is for how much money and what is the money going to be used for? No, let's just, right. So how much are we looking at?
It's $8,000.
$8,000. What will the money be used for? That the money will be used to go to the Giving Closet. The same way when we give money to Pawcatuck Neighborhood or any other TVCCA, we never ask them what it's going for. The following year, they give us a report on what it was used for. And until we find a report that we say, we don't think that was good, then we don't have to fund them again. But so Lou, we've never asked 501c3s, give me a description of where every penny is going. But next year we'll say, oh, you want more money? Tell us what you did with the money you had last year.
Well, I guess maybe that's something we need to examine going forward, because that seems to me not to be the right answer.
So I think that the Giving Closet is a brand new 501c3. I don't even know if they know where it's all going, Lou. I think it's a brand new board, a brand new 501c3. And I think they're working through that now and how best to use those funds.
Then how did they come to $8,000?
We came to that. They came to 19.5, and then we voted it down to, I motioned for 10, somebody else on the board motioned for 5, and we settled at 8.
How did they come to 19.5?
Excuse me, that was the original ask.
How did you get to that original ask?
From that was
What,
the
how do you get from 19.5 down to what is the delta? What got removed from the original ask down to 8?
So they didn't give us an additional ask. They said the original ask was for 19.5. The Board of Selectmen said no. I would be willing to give 10. Someone said 5, and we settled on 8. So there was never a second ask to say, okay, we'll take 8 instead of 19.5. That's what we're offering them. And from what I talked to the director, they'll make ends meet with that.
Who's up? I know Mike's lit up.
I'm always lit up.
So say something. All right.
I move to take $8,000 from the undesignated fund to be used towards the Giving Closet. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
So I have a problem with this, not in the Giving Closet. I think the Giving Closet is a great organization. I think if the town's behind it, we should do it. But this was an entity that was budgeted at zero. And I don't really embrace the fact that we have a line item budgeted at zero and then mid-budget cycle, we're now going to fund it from the undesignated fund. And I'm not done yet. Because the undesignated fund usage should be decided by the people that paid into it, not for the people that paid into it. I'm okay with this, but we should put this in the town meeting and let the town vote on it because it's the town's money. It's not, the undesignated fund is not the Board of Selectmen's to use other than unforeseen issues with an approved budget. Do I understand the?
That's a valid point.
It is valid, but let me answer that. When they got budgeted at zero, they were told by town leaders that, hey, the reason we're budgeting you at zero is because you do not have a 501c3. Hold on. No, I'm not finished. So they were said, listen, you go get your 501c3, coming back and see us in a few months. And you can come to the Board of Selectmen and it should be a lot less problem because now we know you're a 501c3, you're organized, and we're more than happy to give you the money. That's what they were told. So that's what they did. Now, as far as the appropriation, you guys do a lot of appropriations that don't go back to the town that are under $20,000. You appropriate all the time on things that are less than $20,000 that don't go back to the town because the town town elected you officials as Board of Finance officials to make those decisions. So we don't have to go back to the town on less than $20,000. I mean, if you want to, you could, but now you're setting a precedent because now you're going to pick and choose when we go back to the town when it's not $20,000.
No, I actually think we should have a policy about it. I'm hoping that we're going to get into that with the Board of Finance to set the policy, how the undesignated fund gets tapped. But I don't agree with you, Bob, on the town approved a budget. You know, let's just use a name other than the Giving Closet because I don't want to offend anybody. But say Gary Anino's committee for picking up garbage on the side of the road had a budget line item of zero. And then 6 months down the road, you decided to give Gary Anino's trash pickup committee $6,000. That shouldn't be allowed. The town already decided, they ratified a budget that had that line item as zero. And then you're coming after the fact and funding it from the undesignated. But that doesn't seem right.
So in other words,
Do that same scenario where that line item was $500. It's in the budget. They've already approved that you could give him some money. And then from there, he needs more money. So now we're appropriating something that was already in the budget that the townspeople have already okayed with the budget line. I think that's where he's.
but we do that all the time. There's so many things in the budget that are, so not to get in deep in it, but with tribal affairs, right? We budget a certain amount. If we go over that, I come back to you and you have to determine whether you want to, and if it's over 20,000, I do go to a town meeting. And so is this. This is budgeted zero, but it's in the budget. It was in the budget. It wasn't removed from the budget. It's still in the budget. It has a line item in the budget. I don't know what it is, B32.2 or something, but it's in the budget because it was budgeted as zero, but it was in the budget. So I guess what I'm saying to you is we go to appropriations all the time to the Board of Finance on budgeted items that run over. If we can't make the adjustment within the department, we have to come to you and say, hey, we overspent, we need money, and you guys either approve it or don't. So this is not something new.
No, so as far as the discussion goes, I'm all for it, but I think it should go to the town meeting. We got a town meeting around the corner. Is it too late to add it to the agenda?
I haven't done the call of the town meeting yet. So.
Okay, so there's an opportunity.
So that's your opinion to do that. But so,
Yeah,
so
I'm just saying.
but I'm just saying now
Sometimes you just want to take the win you get. By.
So what about an appropriation? I come to you for another appropriation, and it's less than that. And then now you're going to determine now that one should go to a town meeting, and now that one should go to a town meeting. Why do we have to decide if the town's already decided 20,000 or more, or 20,000 or less? Why are now we changing that policy?
Yeah. I just think we ought to have a policy as to how the undesignated fund gets allocated. It seems to be unstructured.
Might be unstructured, but it's getting an awful lot of discussion.
Yeah.
I guess I'm hearing what Bob's saying in that there is a line item in the budget. Okay, it's zero, but if it had been $1 and now they came back and said, well, we need a little bit more, you know, zero is a number. So if there was nothing on the budget that we had looked at, that line item didn't exist, then I think we might have a different, would approach it a little bit differently, but it's there. So I can understand Bob's position and the way they're going forward.
I can also, but you need to look at the policy and what it says.
I would think this might be a good time to pull it out and take a hard look at it.
Yep.
Where is it?
It's on our webpage.
Right. Yeah.
So are you saying you'd like to see every appropriation go to a
No,
town meeting?
No, I'm not. No, I'm agreeing with you. So, yeah.
Okay, it was Gary that was saying that then.
Yeah.
I get it. So I
I
appreciate,
would agree that we do have the $20,000, and I had it not been under the budget, I think it was a good idea that it was included as a line item. Because I do think that gave the freedom for us to then go do this, especially in so much as they were advised to create a 501c3 and then come back. And it put them outside of the timing of what we do as far as the budget goes. So I just don't think that alone is reason enough not to move this forward by our committee. That's my opinion.
So would you be opposed to it being part of the town meeting?
I don't think it needs to be because of our policy of under $20,000.
Is a yes or no?
No, okay, not, well, because it's under the threshold. So I would think not.
So no, you wouldn't be opposed to it going to town meeting, or yes, you would?
Don't double me. I think we can decide here and then go forward.
I think it should follow our normal process. So I think it's semantic to say that because it was zero. I apologize for disagreeing with you, but I do genuinely agree with Lou. It's semantic. And if we are going to allow it through, it should be the way we've done every other appropriation to date.
So following that vein, I'll be more mindful to watch budget items that are in the budget at zero. Come budget review time, because it just seems, it feels icky, Bob.
so I don't, okay, so I take that as an insult, actually. I try to do everything above board. But I think in this particular case, I can never remember in the 4 years I was a selectman, the 4 years I've been the first selectman, even the 4 years I was on the Board of Ed, that there's ever been a zero thing on the budget that came back and asked for money later. I see where we appropriate for a truck because the truck would no longer run, but that was already in capital. But this is, I've never seen something that came in at zero, and this is a special case because it started out higher than zero. We dropped it to zero and said, and if you go get a 501c3, come back to us.
Yeah, but
I think it's a unique, I think it's a unique case, Gary.
I agree, it's a unique case, and I've watched all the chatter back and forth. I met a very nice person while I was getting my flu shot at CVS that voiced an opinion on this. It has politically charged the town, and because it's politically charged, and because we've taken it to social media, honest to God, I think the town should get to decide on the spot.
Okay, I disagree because I think we're changing a policy. And I think that the person, the end user, the end person who really needs help from the town doesn't even care about this discussion. They just want to know if they go to see the Giving Closet and they need something, are they going to get it or not? And if they truly need it, I think it's a town we should support it for the same reasons why we're now trying to build a better human resources department rather than just a senior center. I think we've identified as a problem where we have people in town. I think there's a chance to help those people, and why not do it?
Just a point, you meant social services, not human resources, right?
Yeah, human services, family services.
I'm just checking.
I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet. It's just going to be the good helping people services.
So just to jump in, this creation of a 501c3, and there are a lot of them now in town, the library, other organizations. The one thing though that on this and maybe some others, it's a newly organized 501c3, and as I understand it, the founders of the 501c3 are getting a paycheck from this 501c3. Now, I have to tell you, I've been involved in a lot of the creation of 501c3s. And while it's legal, I've never seen founders take a paycheck from the 501c3 they created.
So I know that, we would say Pawcatuck Neighborhood's a 501c3?
The 501c3 is the not-for-profit organization.
Right. In the Pawcatuck Neighborhood, is that correct?
That's correct. And what I'm saying, what I'm suggesting or saying to you is that it's very, in my experience, it's very unusual for founders of the 501c3 to take a paycheck from it. They may create an organization where people get paid, but those that create it, generally, my experience, you don't. I mean, I've created several and nobody's ever taken a penny. Others have, our executive directors have and others like that, but not the people that started. So I think it's something, just as one aspect of what maybe we need to create a set of criteria for a 501c3 going forward, not now, as to who would qualify to get funding from the town as opposed to not.
Understood. Thank you. Wayne, you have something?
So I think that this goes back to my my initial comments last year when I mentioned to the Board of Selectmen that I think it's time that we develop something bigger in our town to help everyone that needs help. So we support 13 different line items in our budget currently that encompasses 501c3s and social services. In the 2025-2026 budget, that came to $224,558 between those 13 different organizations. And you've heard around this table tonight, different discussions around who should get money, what the criteria should be, how we should monitor them. Max Snacks is in our town. We're not giving them any money. The largest amount last year was $100,000 to the library, followed by $73,000, and then roughly about $100,000 in some other buckets. Some of the organizations get 500. The Giving Closet was zeroed out. We're arguing over whether or not we can give $8,000 to a line item that was zeroed out. This is exactly why we need someone in charge that can take hold of what are we doing with our money, where should it go, how should it be managed, and who should be making those decisions. This was a rough week on social media. There was a lot of bad things that were said. It was a little bit embarrassing to be part of this town this week, actually. And Amy, thanks for coming and kind of defending yourself. Sarah, it was tough for everybody, but I don't think now is the time to kind of sit here and try to figure out where Bob should be allocating these dollars or how we're supposed to be looking at these reports. Like that's not what we're supposed to be doing, right? Why not? Because we're not doing it for anybody else. Like that's the whole point.
But we should do that.
No, that's what we need to have somebody else doing. We can't do it. Either we have to like kind of say, we're either not going to give out money or we're going to give out money and we're just going to trust that what the organization is doing with it is doing the right thing and we get the reports at the end of the year, which is what we've said we're going to do with these other nonprofits. So that's where we are, right? Like we've said,
I mean,
there's
part
a
of it-
motion
yeah.
and there's a second.
I think
So
Bob already explained that when people come to him during budget season with an ask, they ask you, what did you do with your money last year? And those questions should be asked.
right, but here we are again saying that the money shouldn't go to pay for the founder. But so is that what we're here to talk about? Or are we
No,
talking about the
no.
$8,000 request? And is it something that we can allocate and vote on and move forward? So I'm not seated, I'm not voted. I just want to say, like, I feel like this is where we are. We have the motion, we have the second.
Well, we're still in discussion and
Right, but are we asking for the report at the end or are we asking for a report at the beginning of where are we spending the money?
I'm not asking for a report that's not probably generatable. But I think the solution to, I don't disagree agree with your point, Lou, but I think the vetting that goes on with regard to wherever funding goes outside of town services, that's the Board of Selectmen's job when they create their budget. And then it's our job to say, can we afford it? And the question on the table right now is, can the town afford to keep the Giving Closet going with an $8,000 allocation from the undesignated fund? And I'm just going to amend my motion just to add that it's going to go to line B23.21. According to, and
Did you get the appropriation I sent you? I did send an appropriation request to you, and that's how you know that number, correct? 23.21.
I wasn't looking at that, but now that I recall, you did do that.
Well, he's,
But it is in the budget.
while he's looking at that. So understand there's D restrictions on this building. Does having a nonprofit 501c3 in that space violate it for educational purposes only?
So the library holds a deed restriction on this building. I've had discussions because there's many things that happen in this building that are not educational. They say, like we hold meetings right now. Is this educational? Hold a town meeting in this room. We do voting in this room. We've had farmers markets in this room. We have a food pantry in the giving aisle. So when I talked to Amy Kennedy about this a couple of years ago, I said, is this going to be a problem? And she said, no, the library decided that if there's things that happen in this building that would normally happen in a school, and we know that people vote in schools, they have meeting in schools because they don't have a room like this. So they do cafeterias and auditoriums and so on. So if it's something that would normally could happen in a school, the library said we were okay with doing it here. So we couldn't run a for-profit business out of here, but when we created the giving aisle, we've got nonprofit, we've got a food pantry, and we have the giving closet. The one person that we do have a profit from is a school, which is the early learners.
That close that out?
Go ahead. Amy.
All right. I just want to say a couple things. Not necessarily in regards to the funding per se, but we all know that Sarah has taken on a tremendous amount of, I guess she feels, it's a personal responsibility to help the people who come to her. She doesn't want to turn anyone down. And I completely respect that. And I don't know how she does what she does on a day-to-day basis. That being said, the perspective and scope of this project, the organization has changed from, the meeting on February 5th, the first meeting that we had, it was a $35,000 ask down to a 19.5. I think the last meeting, it was originally 12 or 15. and down to
At the Board of Selectmen meeting?
Yes.
Started at 10, did not go through, went to 5, did not go through, went up to 8.
So Sarah has basically opened up the realization of how many people in our town do need the help. And I got to read off this because my mind, but so how the process of funding or not funding the Giving Closet has become a concern for me mostly is because of how it's been portrayed in online narratives and changes in the undertakings along the way. So going forward, like I know Sarah's working on this tirelessly, but if she could really organize, exactly who she wants to help and how she wants to help them, I think it could help her with her overall budgeting and future asks. If there are future asks, I think that people on various Facebook pages have been led to believe that the town is turning its back on people. And this is not blame on any one person or post. And I think you mentioned this in your reflection at the beginning of your last meeting. And as a board member on the town, it really bothered me because it was a fictitious narrative that had been allowed to be misconstrued and perpetuated. And as a board member, I feel the responsibility to correct any misinterpretations of our roles. So as Winona said, our town, the taxpayers have been giving over $224,000 in budget cycles to different organizations and like the library. The library does a lot for our town. It's a staple in our town. But to give residents the idea and let a conversation perpetuate on social media, which can be so divisive to a town of people that always just want to help people. So you go to anyone in North Stonington and the town rallies together to help a family, to help anyone in need. So this pitting one against the other, or they support us, they don't support us, it leads me to need to say, like, what are our town leaders supposed to be doing in this town? We're a government. First and foremost, we need to see that the needs of our government are run properly. And if there is a case where our government is not getting state, federal, and other funding, we need to be able to run our government. So town leaders are elected to act in the best interest of the town as a governing body, to practice due diligence and ask difficult questions in order to determine the best route for our town to move in to serve all residents. And there's no doubt in my mind that North Stonington does. Every meeting I watch, Bob is looking out for every single resident in this town, and I don't know how any of you do it. So while I value the opinions that were, laid out online, I don't appreciate the narrative. Because I don't think any of us in this room are dark or uncaring or unknowing of any need that is being brought to people in this town. So I already said that. Bob, I brought up the feasibility of having a community service type center to better serve the needs of all the age populations. Because like the schools get, the children in schools tend to get the help they need. And this is where the Giving Closet started. It's the mid-range to the elderly that might be forgotten about. So when you're looking at, how to serve a community service center, I just hope that we take into account what the town can sustain for the future. And I have a feeling it's going to go hand in hand with what Sarah is proposing. But I know, Sarah, that they did, do you want to work with the social services center, or like you want to work with them, but just not for them? Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just, there have been so many meetings and conversations, and I value everyone's input. So. Okay.
And that's the way I picture it too, Amy, so we have multiple resources. So let's say that you're the senior center, you're the social services director. Someone's in crisis, they come to you, their head's spinning, they can't think straight. They want the director to give them direction where to go. So once they tell their story, they had a fire, they had a tragic accident, whatever it happens to be, then that person will say, these are our resources. And when they get to the Giving Closet, if it's a clothing issue, here's our resource. If it's a food issue, it could be Mrs. Costanza. It could be Always Home if it's a home issue. So that's why we support these other groups. So we know what our resources are. It's going to be this new director's job to be an expert on all resources. And I'm hoping that the Giving Closet will be one of those resources.
Okay, so going on that in and of itself is a vast undertaking. So when you're looking at the scope of even this meeting tonight and what the town is going to be taking on and the sustainability of these projects for the future, I just, I'm not worried about $8,000. I'm worried about the scope of what our town is agreeing to.
Agreed. And I think that's why we started this discussion so soon. We started it 2 months ago. We've had 3 guest speakers that are past seniors, directors of social services. We have some more coming in. So we know the need. I heard Wynonna loud and clear during the budget season. There's those people that need help. And we do things for seniors, but we need to go to be a more inclusive group. We have the perfect building. The senior center building is private. No one even knows when you drive up there, your car's up there unless you drive up there yourself. So we have a perfect setup to do it. We just need the right field, the right person to do it, and the town has to support it because we know we need it. That's a whole different discussion than this, so kind of. Anything else? Am I good, Mike, or?
Sarah?
Yeah, you can say it, Bob. I don't.
Oh,
have any
thank
Bob, you
questions
didn't send me
either.
that, you had an email about it, but you only sent
I
me
didn't have, you
the
don't have the
annual
actual
meeting,
appropriation?
the annual report stuff, so.
Okay. I thought I had it, but maybe not. I'll make sure I get it too. It must be on my computer. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we're gonna use the number, the line item that I mentioned earlier. 23.21. It has to be amended, I'm gonna sign the thing, so if the minutes have to be amended, we can do that. Any further discussion on this matter?
I'm just gonna make a couple of comments if that's okay.
Please.
Okay. So I'll agree with Winona and a lot of what Amy said. I think this has been a tough couple weeks, seeing this kind of conversation litigated in social media. I think a lot of the concerns that people have, Bob brought this up last week, is a concern around how well the operations will be run of this new 5013C. And I think this is and conversation. So as long as I've been aware of Sarah, I'm not friends with her, like I've interacted maybe like half a dozen times. She has been helping people. And I can imagine when she's with those people, because she's gone from helping like one-off people here and there to really becoming the center of quite a few people's world. And I can imagine when she's helping people that the face that you may have seen in some of the meetings with the presentations is not the face that those people who are getting help see. I can see her as their peace, as their salvation, as their person that they can go to when everything around them is falling down. And I have to weigh that when I see concerns around presentation style or even references to things I don't agree with. I kind of have to go back to that and I have to say, Bob's alluded to it in the Board of Selectmen meeting, is the person that I'm seeing here in a very stressful environment actually the true you, or when it really comes down to it, when she's really there helping the people, like that's the person I believe in. I believe in the fact that, right, like in those moments, she knows what needs to get done and she gets it done. And so I share a lot of everyone's concerns on both sides. But when I think about what it is that she's done, when I think about the board that she has now, which I expect will be guiding her and supporting her through this, I don't think those are two different people, right? That's the same person that can be there and help families when they're in their most need and rally troops and rally support and get things done is absolutely the person that can do that going forward. I will caution that just because if we were to approve this one-time cost appropriation tonight, I think, the giving clause has to be prepared that doesn't mean the budget line item will get funded. So there's still a lot going on. I just wanted to sort of share that perspective because you can be really, really, really good at something, right? And sometimes it doesn't always come across that way.
Well, this has been a difficult several months, 6 months, 8 months. And I love this town. I love the people in this town. And hopefully we can all just move beyond this, and it's not the end of the conversation. And we'll take a vote.
I got one more comment, question. Sorry. So Bob, and we seem to be, look, come on up. Feel the love. So we seem to be hung up on this not going to the town due to the funding level, but the entity whose name will not be spoken is also getting rent that the town is covering, utilities, pro rata share for capital improvements, including the town portion of the parking lot we're planning to put in over there. There's more than $8,000 wrapped around this endorsement.
Yeah, I think we,
Sorry.
7,500, we figured out for the utilities and for the room.
And then the roof and the maintenance and the snow removal, all, I'm just saying, we seem to be ducking a threshold that would send this to the town. Why wouldn't we let the town weigh in on this based on primarily the heated social media that was stirred up by all involved parties this week? I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for the town to say, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't. Why would we not do that?
Because it's not a current policy.
It is if it's $20,000.
Well, you're looking at, so we don't charge the food pantry so this goes under the,
Not naming names.
any good turn goes, all good turns go unpunished. So we created a giving aisle because it was the right thing to do for our town. It's a first step to try to do something nice because we don't have the whole, so we're not the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center. We don't have that. So by giving the Mrs. Costanza a room and giving Sarah a room, now 2 rooms, and all in one aisle, then I think that we're just trying to do the right thing for our townspeople. Now you're using that as a.
But let's back up. You skipped a step here.
What are we
This
doing?
was started by the Board of Education and the Giving Closet.
Yes.
And now the Board of Education stepped away. They still support, as they, but they pushed this out to an entity onto itself. Between its formation and it becoming an entity unto itself, the town made a decision to put give the giving away. So let's if we're going to tell the story, tell the full story.
You just did. Is that your question? Or was that your
I
comment?
just wanted to make sure the full picture was painted.
I got it. Carl?
So other than Amy speaking up, other people standing behind us, talking to us personally without the social media, would seem that they're kind of being short of their vote, but they also don't want to become verbal about it so that they become part of the social media. So I'm still battling here why we just don't let the townspeople do this. Let them decide on their own how to do it. Because I hate to say it, but no matter which way we vote, 50% of them are going to hate us. The other 50 are going to hate the other side.
Yeah, if we go to a town meeting, won't it be the same thing?
Not necessarily.
Because now people have to raise their hand and say no or yes.
No, you solve that problem by paper ballots. We've done that before. Paper ballots, they all feel comfortable. They write down what they want. It gets sent up, no names, no nothing. To me, that's kind of where, if it had been 35,000, it would have went into the budget. Somebody could have said, no, we can't do it. If it was 20,000, we wouldn't be having this discussion. It would be going right to the town. But because now it's chopped down under and nobody's having a full, they can't voice their opinions 100%. They're counting on us to watch their money. So to me, I've got half a dozen people saying, well, we don't really don't need that. We need it. She does very well with her services, but it's our town money that's going somewhere I'm not having a say to. That's where I'm battling back and forth.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Mike, Lou?
Go ahead, Lou. Vet it all out.
I think I've said enough on this one. It's just it gets back to what we talked about the last time, where we're here as the Board of Finance, and the Board of Selectmen vetted this, and they wish to do this. It's their judgment that I'm relying on that this is something that would meet the test of being a good thing for the town to do. Given that it's such a small dollar amount, we needn't go through the town meeting aspect of it. And so I guess it comes back to the Board of Finance that, is this something the town can afford to do? And is it appropriate for us to take the money as a little bit out of that undesignated fund? And again, something we've done. I don't like the way this whole thing has gone. Social media, the whole bit, I think, has been very distasteful. And, but I don't make that decision as far as that goes. That was something that was voted on by the Board of Selectmen. They vetted it. And can we afford it?
So
And the question is, can the town of North Stonington afford? I know we like to watch every dollar, but this is not a lot of money to help an organization that services the people that need it most.
The last bullet of our duties is to set sound fiscal policy for the town. And that's sort of what I'm watching the horizon on with this one, especially about all the chatter that I saw electronically.
Absolutely.
So
I guess this isn't the place though to do that
exactly,
policy.
but I'm saying it's an action item for us to put policy around this.
Right.
because-
I think
And
there's
to
a lot
set-
to be done with that.
And to set for next year's budget, that this new, whatever it is, people or team is charged with taking this $225,000 and allocating it to where they think is the most appropriate for North Stonington residents. So that that's taken out of the hands of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance and not put in front of social media, that it's delegated to the right people in the right places. And maybe it's not TVCCA that gets the full amount and that money gets spread around where it goes, wherever it happens to be. That it's the people that know where the money should go, spends the money the way it should be spent. And it's not this board arguing over it at 9:30 at night in October.
Well, and just to set one more thing straight, because while we're here. So there's a lot of talk comparing the giving closet to the food pantry. And I think it's gonna keep coming up in town, so I just wanted to say that the food pantry is, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the food pantry is completely volunteer and based on donations only. Mrs. Costanza just uses the space because she helps mostly families in the schools. Right, is that correct? So when people are comparing whether online or here, they're two completely different operations. So just so they don't get confused in the future.
Any further discussion? I'm going to do a hand vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-2. Okay. Let the healing begin. I didn't see anything on social media because I don't look at it. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at my agenda. Want to table minutes the next time? We're going to table minutes to November 5th.
New people on seat until November 18th.
All right, we're doing minutes. Yep. When's the last? You. All right, we have meeting minutes from October 1st.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 1st as written.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Do we have any others? We're still waiting from Carl. Do we have any other ones to go over right now? Yeah. That's one Antoinette said, that's the only one that's missing, right? Okay. Right. All right. And finally, public comment.
I'll be brief. I know everybody wants to get out of here, but I think that this meeting's been really eye-opening for me. And I found it really interesting that in this meeting, we had, just to use the giving closet as an example again, 2-to-1 speaking in support in the meeting. We had our first selectman come up and say, in all of their discourse, they had 2-to-1 support. And yet it seems that this board valued what happened on social media in their discussion, not in their vote, but in their discussion, more so than that. And I think that, you know, more weight needs to be given to people that come out, participate in the civic process, write a letter, you know, follow the proper channels, than to just like, we don't even know if those people live in this town, you know, that are just on social media. Like, we can't be making decisions based on that. And, you know, so that was just really eye-opening for me. And I know that if you folks really want to, just one second. And I know that if you folks really want to stop emboldening people to stop misbehaving on social media, then giving that kind of power is probably counter to what you're trying to achieve.
I think all of us on this board have followed all of the meetings and have spoken to many people in town and have seen the people here at many of the meetings. But the social media issue just needed to be addressed publicly because people do watch the meetings. And I wanted it on the record that we do support social services as 501s in our town. And that's nothing against anyone in this room or what Sarah is doing. It just, people need to behave. And I bet none of those people that responded on social media were here.
Right. Yeah. That's the issue.
So
And
that is the issue. And also the issue is that people don't watch or pay attention to town meetings for the most part. Maybe people in this room.
then the people that show up get to have a say. I mean, that's how democracy works. So yeah. And I mean, I heard more than one board member tonight comment that they were concerned to support something because of something that happened on social media. And that kind of evidence makes me uncomfortable. I think when people take time out of their day to come here and participate, that should count for more. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
So in my comments to me were not from social media. There are actually people talking to me what I see out, where I came forth up with my stuff. It's not from, I don't even read 90% of that. So as me personally, when I mentioned about people wanting to vote for it and didn't want to speak up, it's personal people that live in town talking to me.
Anyone else besides Brian? Right.
I just want to say thank you very much for all the pain and energy that this has taken from all of us and now from all the residents. As far as social media goes, I'm not really sure what to say. I did see you, Amy, comment on another social media post from somebody else as well. So for you to be.
But I commented that because someone disagrees with you, it doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Right,
Because
Amy,
that's
but
where it was going, and it just needs to.
it wasn't by me though.
No.
No.
I'm not saying it was. I'm saying in general, in the conversation, we need to be careful.
I agree.
And they hurt people. They hurt your organization. They hurt Max Snacks. So just like we tell our kids, like social media matters. Like what you say on social media has real consequences and effects on people. So that's all. And people jump on that really want to support you, which is awesome, but they don't have all the facts, or they have.
I've
just
directed them
one-
all to the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen meetings.
done
That is what I said in the majority of my responses
But
back.
there was comment after comment that perpetuated, and it's not good for the town.
Other than responding to Sean Dolan, I'm not really sure I don't even know who that is. I came up here, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank God this is over. Hopefully somebody else will speak on behalf of the Giving Closet next year. And good luck.
Yes, sir.
Forward.
You didn't do anything wrong on that.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian.
I do. Paid for this shirt myself.
That's an excellent shirt.
Yeah. Comes on. First of all, I'd like to say $8,000 is not, it is a lot of money, especially to a person that's on a fixed income. I kind of wondered, and I didn't hear the question asked. I know I followed quite a few meetings. I know when the request was first made, the money was supposed to be to help for an attorney, help for insurance. And I understand maybe a wage. Now, my question would be, if a person gets town tax money and uses it to pay themselves, aren't they a town employee? I don't know. Maybe somebody should check into that.
That's the question for the selectmen, because what I got lectured was, we just approve it or deny it. It's theirs to understand how it gets utilized.
Well, when it gets to, it's funny how it gets to, sometimes it gets to a vote and the public don't get to comment. I would have liked to made that comment before any vote was taken.
Well, Brian, just to clarify, a corporation was given an appropriation. Just like the Wheeler Library gets an appropriation and they use it for paying the director and whatnot. It doesn't make them town employees either. So if that answers your question.
Answers it, but I don't agree with it. Let me put it that way.
We can.
I mean, I heard a lot of
we
people saying,
haven't-
I don't agree.
This won't be a first for us, buddy.
I hear you. So then I could go to the selectman and ask for $8,000 to pay for my insurance.
If you have a corporation, yeah.
I got a business. My wife has a business.
Any other public comment in the room? How about, we had to see if anyone's online. You gotta. All right, hold on a second.
Could you just ask, did anyone online have a question?
Does anyone online want to speak? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. I don't see anybody. Oh,
No, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. No, I'm making a motion to adjourn.
second. All in favor? Aye.
Thanks.